Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's section. My name is Raymond, I'm a product designer, and today we're looking at how to create a dialog component for the Material UI design system. And if you're not familiar with Material UI, if you go to MUI.com, or you could Google Material UI. Material UI is a design system for building web and responsive applications. So Material UI is made up of different libraries, and today we are going to be looking at the Material UI library. So in the future, you might want to explore Joy UI, Base UI, and the MUI systems. Primarily, the system is divided into these core libraries. However, sometimes as you are building up your applications, both as a designer as an engineer, you end up integrating more than one design system libraries into your project, right? But today we are going to be looking at one particular component in the entire Material UI kit, and that component is called the dialog component. So a dialog, if you're not familiar with it, is a model. Okay, so some other design system or libraries might call it a model, but here we have a dialog that primarily is used to inform users about a task, and it can take up the entire screen. It can also require some actions. It could also have different kind of content within it. So if you scroll down here, you see a lot of examples of what a dialog component will look like. And here we also have an alert. Here we have a transitions. So we have a dialog that has a form where you have to type, and so on and so forth, right? So if you look at the Figma system here, you will see that we have this primary goal, which is to create a functional and reusable and customizable dialog component for Material UI, right? So we are not just creating any dialog, we are creating the one that is compatible with Material UI and how Material UI design system is structured, right? So, and the goal is to adhere to all the standards that Material UI has, and also support various use cases depending on where and when you're using the dialog, and what the end goal is for the dialog, and also make it ready to be integrated back into Material UI. So let's assume that Material UI design system doesn't have a Figma component for the dialog, and once we create it, we should be able to integrate it back into the main design system so that other designers can use it within their projects. And at the end of the process, we are going to have an accessible components, a reusable component, and definitely very, very customizable components. All right. Now, there are examples of customizations I have here that would be nice to incorporate into our system. So these are different examples of dialogues with a varying number of contents, right? And you see we have this repeated pattern where we have the top section, the center section, and the footer section, and that is exactly how Material UI structures their components. So if you look at the structure of the Material UI components, you will see we have a dialog title, a dialog content, a dialog action. Now, everything you do within the dialog could fall and should fall into one of these container, if you must call it, right? So at the end of the day, it's just containers that's holding different groups of elements. And within this container, we can have a variety of different components, sub-components or atomic components. And for the Material UI, some of the core components that you will see is you have the drop shadow, the typography component, the icons, the stack components, the box components, the colors, the buttons, the paper, and so on and so forth, right? So let me just walk you through how this works on the Material UI. So let's say we open up a very simple dialog. So let's open up this dialog. You notice that there is a container holding the dialog, that is the paper, and a paper component in the Material UI has a drop shadow. So if we search for paper, this is a component and it has three different properties. There's a one that doesn't have a drop shadow, and there's the others that have drop shadows. And the dialog component uses a paper component that has a drop shadow. So that is important. It's very important we have that in mind. And also they have the typographies. So in Material UI, if you are creating the design on Figma, we are not going to just we could do that, but we're not going to just type random text, right? We could do that actually and select the right styling. However, Material UI comes with an inbuilt typography component that we'll be using in the design. That way, we are able to stick to all the properties that is available within the typography components of the Material UI. So here we have all the different varieties of components. And also, the other important thing that we need to look at is the stack, the box, and the icon. So the stack and box on Figma is just frames, right? However, there's two separate distinct properties that this stack and box works. So when we draw a frame on Figma and we draw another frame, a stack is just a regular frame, right? A regular frame that is an auto layout frame, obviously, and a box is also an auto layout frame. However, here is where the difference comes in. Both of them serve very similar function. However, the box component is exposed to a lot of properties, so it's easy to customize. For example, you could add corner radius, you could add strokes, right? So you could add stroke just to make it visible. You could add drop shadows. You could do whatever you want, right? However, a stack is just an empty box that you use to hold more than one content, right? So we could have another box inside of it, right? That is maybe gray. We could have another box. So a stack could hold box this way vertically. It could also hold box horizontally, right? So the one core difference between a stack and the box is that the stack, the only properties you will see in a stack is the number of content it has inside, and also the spacing between the content. So it will range from 8 to 32 to 24 to 48 and so on and so forth, using the Material UI spacing system, obviously, right? So wherever we need to have border radius like this, and corner radius and drop shadows, we are going to use a box if we need to. And then we have the icon components. Material UI uses the Google Material icons for all the icons they use in their design system. And to use an icon, we're not just going to drop in an icon from anywhere. We are also going to use the icon component. So if you come back to the Material UI website and you search for the icon button, or just the icon, you see that we have material icon that shows all the icons, right? And then we also do have the icon here, which is just a very simple component that you can quickly switch between different icons, right? So everything in Material UI is a component, right? So that's how we're going to be using it. Now that we've established it, let's look at some of the core structure of a dialog. So a dialog could hold the dialog title, and the dialog title can have the title itself and also the close icon, right? And the dialog action or the dialog footer, just like we saw in the diagram. So the dialog action can have dialog action can also be called the dialog footer. So let me go back to the Material UI, and we can search for it again. So if you go down to the bottom, the footer here, we see all the different APIs available for the dialog components, and we see we have the dialog action. The dialog action is just in Figma is going to be a frame that is holding button, and the dialog component has a maximum of 2 buttons, right? For two different actions, maybe to save something or to cancel, right? So if you notice in this case here, we have action to cancel, action to save, we have different actions, and so on and so forth, right? Now, the other question you might want to look at is that if you take note of the structure here, our header in this case has a title and a subtitle, right? But in this case here, we have a title only. We have a title, which means that we need to be able to pass properties that will enable us to either decide if we need a subtitle or not, right? And that is very important. And the other thing you also notice that all the dialog you have here has different variation of components. So in this case here, we have a dialog that will require a user to upload an image, a cover image, and here we have a dialog that users can be able to use to view maybe a post, right? And here we have a dialog that user can use for filters, and so on and so forth. So which means that the dialog content, like we see here, the dialog content can have a variety of different content type, and it could be made up of different MUI components or Material UI components. And that is possible because here in the dialog content, you can actually pass what is called children, because inside of it is just an empty box that you can add as many things as you want. All right. Now, there's one important thing that I need to show you, because I mentioned that we are going to make sure that our component is accessible. So here, if you look at a sample implementation of the MUI dialog component, this dialog has a dialog title and a button. It also has the dialog content and the dialog action. And here we have just one button. So to demonstrate what I mean, we could actually just duplicate this button. And now we have 2 buttons. So let's say this is cancel. So if we open it again, we now have cancel, we have save changes. Obviously, we want to decide to change the variant of this button, which we can do, but that is not the goal of this demonstration, right? Now, as you can see, we have the drop shadow that's giving the dialog the elevation that it needs, and also we have all the content and the header. Now, if you look at the title is actually just saying dialog title, right? It just says dialog title, and it has the text inside. And one thing that you will notice if we look at the dev tool to preview how this dialog title is rendered, you will see that the the dialog title is rendered as a H2 element, right? So if we decide to add a subtitle, so let's say that we want to add a subtitle. So that model subtitle as a reference. So it's not formatted, obviously. We could do that, but that's not a goal here. Now, if you hover over this, both the title and the subtitle is still an H2, and that is not what you want, right? You want the subtitle to be a different HTML tag, because we want to make sure that when someone is using a screen reader or keyboard navigation, they'll be able to understand that dialog mod title is a title and the modal subtitle is actually a subtitle, right? So that is important, and that is something that we need to fix when we are working on Figma. And also, because this dialog title is a H2 property, there are other functionalities that Material UI provides that allows you to change the HTML tag that is assigned to the dialog title, and there are workarounds we can use to customize this, and that is the reason why we need to have different properties that will make it easy to be customized. All right, so let's dive straight into implementation. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring in the Material UI design system UI kit into our system, our design. And to do that, we have the community version here. So I'll add a link to the video once it's live on YouTube. You can go to this file and duplicate it to your workspace. I already have it here, and I've already published it to my Frames and Divs workspace. So I can come into this file and go to the assets. I can search for VCs, and here I can add to file. So right now I have access to all the properties that I need to do what I want to do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to decouple this entire component. So I want to have the dialog title as a separate component. I want to have the action and the content as a separate component. So to do that, we could start by bringing in some components from the assets we just imported. So let's bring in a stack, and just to demonstrate to you, I will create a frame here so you can see what's inside. So you see a stack is just an empty shell, right? Then also I'll bring in an icon button, just so for you to see an icon button. And the other thing I want to bring in also, for just to demonstrate this, I want to bring in a Material UI icons. Already I have it on my system, so you can easily bring it into yours. Material UI icon is also free. You can search for it on the Figma community and save it to your workspace. Okay, now I want to bring in one more thing, the typography. Remember, I told you that everything in Material UI is a component, right? Okay, let's see. Is this from this one? Okay, hold on. Let me show where this is coming from. This is coming from this. Okay. Interestingly, they don't have the Material UI 6 anymore here. So I'm bringing it from a different file where I already have it. All right. So here we have the instance slots, and what we can do is want to make these 2 slots. Remember, I told you that the stack is just to hold multiple content, right? So that's just what it is, right? So hold on. So what we're going to do is to replace this instance slot. An instance slot is just an empty component in the Material UI that allows you to replace it with a different component, right? So what we want to replace it with is a typography component, right? So we can search for typography. Okay, let's say all. Here we have it. So we can click on it and you see it has replaced it. And we can do the same for the second slot. So typography. And we can search all libraries. And here we have it. Okay, so now what we want to do, we want to change this first one to H2 because that's the default property that is used. However, we could actually decide that, okay, this is too large. It's possible to use a smaller size component, but while implementing it, you are still going to use the correct HTML tag, which is H2, and that way that will require you to also inform your developers that, oh, this is going to be a H2 tag, even though we are using a H6 variant here, because H6 variant has the proper size that we need, right? So let's say a subtitle. So we can do subtitle 1. All right. Now we need a button icon, right? And this button icon, we are going to use a close. So if you notice, already we have the icon instance, so we can change the icon itself without detaching the components, because this is an instance of a component, right? So we can just search for the close icon, and what we can do is filter it from the material design icon, because that is what Material UI is using, right? So we are very certain that this is going to be usable. All right, now we have the text and we have this. Now we have what we need to create the dialog title. So we can select both of them and we are going to add it into an auto layout, right? Now this auto layout is going to be a stack. So remember I told you stacks are just to hold content, and the only property you can apply to a stack is the spacing, and you can decide to change the width. The width doesn't really matter because it will always be changed. It will always change or adjust to wherever you add it, right? So now we have the dialog header. So what I would do is that, because I want to have different variations of the dialog header, what I would do is that I'll first of all create this as a component. So I'll right click, I'll say create component. So I will name this component, I will name it dialog header. So let's check what is called. Let's check what is called on MUI. So MUI calls it dialog title, right? So let's call that, we can call it dialog title or we could call it dialog header. So the appropriate name, because it's now wrapping both the title, the subtitle, and the action button, I will preferably call it dialog header. And also, if you notice, I'm trying to use the same naming convention here, where we have the first letter of each word as capital letters. So that's why here we also have the first letter of each word as capital letters. So remember, our goal is to build something that can be integrated back into the design system of MUI, right? So now we have here, if we click on this, what we can now do is we can add variants to this. So to do that, let's first of all expose all the properties of this, all the properties of the component inside this. So if you click on the top right here on add property, you click on the plus icon, click on nested instance, and now we can expose the typography, we can expose the icon button, right? That way it's now customizable. We can change the text, we can change the icon button. But I mean, the most likely you wouldn't be changing the icon button, because this button is the close button and it's usually this close icon, right? So preferably you you will just leave it the way it is, right? Now, what we want to do as a first step, we want to create a variant of this. So let's click on add variant. Now we have two different variants. And what I want to do here, if you notice in this use case here, there are use cases where we don't have the subtitle, right? So there are several ways to do this, but the most visual way is to create a variant. I could actually just select this text and add what is called what is it called? It's called maybe the opacity appearance, right? So I can set the property of an appearance so that when I turn on the appearance, it will just disappear. But to be able to allow others to understand what is going on, we are going to have a variant here where we do not have the subtitle. So what we want to do, first of all, let's go back into this component. I'll name this as the dialog title. If I can spell it correctly. And the other one, I will call it subtitle. All right. So now here, I could just call this also dialog title. And here I could just call this subtitle. But anyway, we don't need this, right? So how do we remove it from this tag component? Because this is an instance and we don't want to detach this instance. So what we want to do is to go back to the instances and change the number of instances to 1. And that is it. It's gone. So if you notice the alignment is no longer correct because it's aligned to the top. So we can just change alignment to center, align center. And we'll do the same here just to make sure that all our properties is correctly using the same settings, right? So now we have two properties here. So how do we make sure we have proper naming convention? So what we can do is to add a naming here, and to make it very easy to use, we can just have a toggle. So to create a toggle variance, we can just say has subtitle or show subtitle. I usually like to put a question mark, and now the first option will be true or yes, right? The second option will be false. Okay, now if we copy this out here as a variant, hold on. If you copy this and paste outside the component as a variant, now you can see that we have show title property, and we can say yes, and you see we have a subtitle. If we turn it off, we don't have a subtitle. Simple as that. All right, now we can add more variants. So we could just click on this button to add a new variant, and this variant we want to have different properties. So in this example here, we have a title, we have maybe a secondary text here that is not a subtitle, or let's say the subtitle but is aligned to the right. Instead of aligning vertically, is going horizontally. And we also have a progress tracker here. So this is an MUI component that is called progress, right? So if you go back to the MUI websites and search for progress, you will see we have a component that is called progress. And yes, this is it. So on the progress, you could have a label, right? So let's see if we can find progress from our material UI. So I'm not certain if it is free because the community version doesn't come with everything, but luckily for us, it is here, right? So what we need this as one. Okay, so let's go back to our dialog, and what we want to do, we want to change this. We want to change this tag to be direction to be in columns instead of to be in columns. Actually, this should be in, yes, it should be columns. Oh yeah, okay. And we can also center align it, right? And also see that there's a property here called spacing, so we can actually just change the spacing to our preference. So what I want to also do is to expand this a little bit, and then I could just change all of this property to fixed, and I can also just expand it. The width doesn't really matter. You could, because you're going to use it in a different environment, and unless if you have a need to add a max width or a min width to the component, but because this is a component that is going to be used in another component, we are going to just ignore the width of the component. So now we need a third instance, right? Luckily for us, because we're using the start component, we can add more instance. So we can use 3 here. So in this other slot, what we want to do is to add a progress. All right, progress. Okay, not seeing it. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so what I can do, so if you come down to the properties of the progress, so just to make it easy for you to see which one it is, we can just select only the progress, and we have all the properties of the progress. So we can choose the smaller one. Okay, the smaller one doesn't have a label, which is a problem. We're supposed to have a label. So we're going to go back to the 32. All right, so we can change the properties however we want, anywhere we are using, depending on where we are using it, right? So in this case, we are tracking the percentage completion. So let's say that the current percentage is, let's say 50. Let's see if it's going to change. So it's not going to change the circle. So we can just leave it at 99, right? If we are creating this component, we could actually make it easy to change the progress status of the actual green blue circle, right? So, but now let's just leave that, because we are creating the primitive component that will be customized later. So let's say this is just a secondary text. Yes. So we have all of this now, and we could maybe we could call this what can we call this? So this is, let's maybe this is a dialog that is going to be used to create maybe an event or a form that has multiple steps, right? So we could say this dialog, we go back to the parent component, we could add a variant that says show has progress, and you say true. You could also write yes. So by default is false, because most of the other variants is false, doesn't have it, right? So then if you come back to these variants, you can just say true, right? Now if you look at our variants here, we now have one more property, and we say we turn it on, and we see this, right? So this is how you could build out more and more variants of the dialog title or the dialog header, right, with different properties inside of it. And all of this is still using entirely the MUI components, right? No no extra stuff coming in anywhere. So you are very 100% sure that your engineer is going to be able to implement this without any too much hassle, right? All right. So we could go on and on to add more different use case, but as you can see, we've covered all the use case that is needed here, right? And in the future, if you have other use case where you need a dialog header with different properties, you could just come back here and add those little details, right? Okay. Now what's next? The next thing we need to do is to create a dialog action or a dialog footer. So how do we do that? We need a stack as well. A stack again. Yes, we need a stack component. So we bring in our stack component, and our stack component is going to have two, and it's going to be in columns, and both of them could be anything, but it's mostly going to be two action buttons, right? So now we could just say button, and we are going to change the instance to button, right? So we're going to change the instance 2 to button, and we're going to change the instance 1 to button as well. Okay. Okay. Yeah, my system is a little bit slow, so bear with me. All right. So we have these two buttons, but obviously we need to give it some spacing. So we could say 4. I mean, this is a stack component, so you always be able to control the spacing you want, but it's always good to have a standard. So here we could change the variant of one of the button to be outline. So in the future, you could actually just, depending on where you're using the button, you can change it to different variants of the button, right? And your engineers also have access to all the variants, so it doesn't really matter what variant you're using, right? So now we have the two buttons. We can call this action 1, and we can call this action 2. Action. Right. Okay, you can also decide to control the size. So let's say we want to use medium sizes to make it a little bit smaller. All right. So now this is just a stack component. This is a stack component, but we want to rename it to be the dialog action or the dialog footer. So let's see what is called here. So if you go back to our dialogs and go to the down, it's called dialog actions, right? So let's go back here, and we want to wrap this in a component. So we'll wrap it in a frame first, or we could just say create component. Let's see, it's going to automatically convert this to, it's going to wrap it in a component that is called stack. So we're going to call it dialog actions. You see that? Now if you want, you could actually just maybe give it a size, and you align everything inside the stack. You align it, you first of all make it a full width, and you align it to the left, right? Now you're very sure that this is it. So let's say that maybe this second button here is going to be used as mostly the cancel button, but because it's a button, you have access to other properties, so you can always navigate or change the whatever variant you want to use there. So here we could say that, okay, this should be error which give us the red for cancel. So now here we have it, and we don't really have any custom properties, but we can expose the nested properties of this button, so it's easy to change the label or change the variant. So we can just say stack, and it will expose the two buttons inside of it. So now if we copy this component and paste a variant, we'll see that we now have a dialog action with two instances, and we also expose the two buttons inside of it and all its properties. So you could actually just change all of these. Let's say this, you want to use this, you want to just use an info or whatever property you want, right? Okay, so now let's go back to the main deal of the occasion, which is to create the dialog container, which is going to house both the dialog content, the dialog title, the dialog action, and so on and so forth, right? All right, so now let's think about it. The dialog content is usually a combination of a lot of things, so you may not really predict what is going to be inside a component. If you're building out this for a product, you could have all of this as different components that is going to be saved in your extended design system of the material UI, and your product team can now use any of them anywhere they want to. So anywhere they are going to use have an image upload dialog, they're going to use this one. Anywhere they're going to have maybe a blog dialog or a filter dialog, they're going to use the other one. And now, because everything here is in different segments, you can easily just customize all of them. So what I want to do is very, very simple approach to this entire design. And what I want to do there is to have the dialog content as an empty container, so that whoever is creating could just create all their content and then use instance swap to swap the empty container into dialog itself, right? Now, but we notice that the dialog has a drop shadow, and it's going to be using a paper frame. So what we are going to do, we are going to bring in the paper. The paper is just a frame, an empty frame per se, that has an instance inside of it. So we are going to see if it will serve our purpose. So the paper is an empty instance, as you can see here. So let's see if we still have it in the new version. Okay, it's no longer available in the new version. Probably because they realized that the paper is just an empty frame and they don't necessarily need to create a component for it, right? So yeah, that makes sense. So what we can do, we could just delete this and we create a new frame. So this frame is going to be a box. Remember I told you, let's see if they also have a box. I doubt if the box is going to be there anymore, because the box is an empty shell. It's no longer there. Nice. So what we are going to do, we are going to create an auto layout box with an empty shell, right? And we are going to name this. We're going to name this paper, right? But very, very important step is the number one, the fill color. We are going to use first of all, we're going to have a divider or an outline. Let me search for it. Outline, enable outline. Is it okay? Is on the stroke? Yes, divider. Or we could use the outline. Outline, just for you to see it. So I'll remove it later. All right, so this is it. The first thing we want to do, we want to add a corner radius. So here we could say 16, or I think the right one is by default is actually 4, but the material UI design system gives you the opportunity to change the default border radius across the entire design system, and you can increase it from 4 to 8 or to 16. My preference is to use 4, so I'll just stick with that, right? So I'll also add a drop shadow. So let's go with 6. Nope. Let's go with 20. Okay, interesting. I've noticed that the new system now uses very light drop shadows. In the previous system, the drop shadows were very, very strong, so it's very difficult to use. So now that is very light, we could just use something like, okay, let's stick with this. And okay, I see why we don't have a background. So let's see if we can have paper elevation 0. Yes, okay. That was my fault. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, this is good. All right, so now we have this. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring in three segments. What makes up the components? The action. So we're going to copy this instance. Hold on. I'm going to bring this into this place. Yeah. So let's just make this a little bit wider. And what we also want to do, we want to bring this to be vertical align. We also want to make this, let's make it hug content for now. And okay, we could just make it fixed so that every other thing would be fill container. So here, that's why I told you that the size here doesn't really matter for the dialog action, because it's going to be used inside with another component, right? So here we have this, and now we could actually also bring in the title or the dialog header into this place, and we can also make it fill container, right? So we could also bring it to the top, obviously. And the other thing we want to do, let's make it this way, so we could just increase the size. Later on, we are going to add different properties to the dialog so that it can have multiple widths, because on the material UI we have the properties where we have different widths of the dialog depending on where it's used. Some is full screen, some is large, some is small, depending on the content of the dialog itself. All right, so now we have the heading, we have the action, and we now need the content. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to just bring in the stack, but because there's no more stack, there's a stack actually, right? There's no more stack in the new version, but there's an instance swap. There should be an instance swap. No, there's none. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to we should be able to create an empty instance swap, but what I would do is that I will just use the one from the previous version of Material UI. Where is it? We have a stack here. Yes. So now what we can actually do is that we can actually just detach the stack, because we don't need all the properties that comes with it, because this is just going to be an empty shell. The most important thing that we need is what is inside, which is the instance slots, right? So we could, let's see if we detach it, what happens. So inside the instance slots, we still have this component here, but now we no longer have access to the property. So we'll need to bring back the stack instance. So what we can actually do is to, if we detach it, what we can do, so let's say we detach this, what we can do is to create a new component and call this, we call it the dialog content, right? So we can now expose the instance swap. So here inside of it, we can use a property. We can add a property that is called instance swap, right? So we need to now choose. We can choose a default instance, right? So to do that, we need to create an instance slot. So what we can do actually is we can just copy this instance slot outside here, right? And we can first of all detach it, and then we can create a new component, and we call it instance slot, right? So here we can now what we see inside the properties instance swap, we can pick an instance, and here we have the libraries and we have the instance swap. We can, okay, let's say swap contents. Create. Yeah, so let's see, what does it say? No use within components. Okay, let's see. Let's see, apply instance swap properties. We can say yes. Okay, now we are using it, right? So this is our dialog content, nothing special, right? So let's see if it's going to work. So let's copy an instance, and here we paste it. We go to the, yeah. So what we are going to do is that we are going to remove all the padding that is on this paper for now. So we're going to make it 0. So now you see we need padding for all the different subcomponents. So here we could add padding. Let's say we add 8 pixels, right? So we can add 8 pixels. So let's make this 16. So we're looking at what it looks like and we are adjusting it, right? So we can do the same for the action. So let's make this 16 as well, and 16 as well. Good. We can do the same here. So we can just bring this down here, and we can change the size to any size we want, and whatever is inside, we'll just make it fee container, right? And now we can add padding, or we may not add anything because it's important. So we could just remove every property that is here for now, right? So we could also remove this property here, and this is just a placeholder that is going to be removed, right? So we could just even call this placeholder, right? Okay, let's make it more contents placeholder, right? So we could just call this, make this to be no property at all, right? No, because we are going to swap everything inside. We want to make sure that we don't have something that is going to interfere with the actual contents we are going to create. So now what we can do here, however, is to make this fee container and also make it fee height. So now you see that there is a lot of spacing there. So what we can do is inside the instance swap, we can just say fee container, and there we have it, right? So and that is it. We have our dialog. Yeah, we have our dialog. right? So now what we need to do is to make this our component. This is our main component. So we create our component and we call it, how is it called in MUI? It's called Dialog. And that is it. We have a master component. And again, here we can expose all the nested instance. So we can expose the dialog header that has all these children. We can expose the dialog content. We can expose the dialog action. Right? Now, if we take this somewhere here, copy an instance, paste it inside here. Okay, let's bring it to where we can see it. Now we can easily make this whatever we want. For the dialog header, we don't need a progress. We don't need progress. So show title. Okay, we need to change this so that we can just have a toggle. So here on the third variant, the show title is false, right? So that we can easily have a toggle. Okay, interesting. Show title. Okay, I think I changed the wrong one. Show title. Show is true here. As progress is true, then this is false. Okay, we select it now. Okay, now we have just simple toggles. So we can turn on the progress. We can turn on all of these. So yeah, we have this going. Okay. But then we also need the variants where we don't have all of that. So if we turn this off, yes. So you see that? Okay. So now we can say contact form. Here we can actually just show subtitle, and we write, where's the subtitle? Enter your email and phone. Right. So now what we need to do is to update the buttons to the proper name. Maybe this is cancel. Obviously this is not going to be, maybe this is just going to be inherits, and we can just use text. And on the other one we can see submit. Right. And now what we need to do, we can now create a separate custom component that is going to hold the content. Right. So let's just make a quick prototype here, and we're going to use text, the input text field. That is what it's called, a text field component. So this is going to be a very quick prototype. Forgive me, our time is fast spent, so I could just call this custom contents. Of course, you're going to use the name that is very easy to understand. So here I can say the label is email, and the value is, okay, we don't have a value, you have a placeholder. So enter your email. Right, so here I can just convert this to a component, and I can make this a yes. So here I can now add my padding if I want. Okay, so I can also duplicate this. I can see phone number. So enter phone number. Okay, there's an error there. All right, so I mean, this is not the best of forms, and of course, if you want, you could always use the stack properties. So you can add the spacing, right? We can add these other ones. So now if you go in, if you select this component, we can swap the content. So if you go down to the instance swap, so if everything works well, this should be easy thing, the easiest part, right? So swap content. So we can search for custom, and that will be within our design. So yeah, look at it here, and we have this. So now you see that the only problem we need to fix is, because this is an instance, we need to make sure that it expands to take up the contents of whatever is going to be inside here. So but here you see we have a hard-coded height. So let's see how we can fix that. If we adjust it here, everything works correctly. So if we say let's this the whole content, so we come back here, here we can use whole content, and now we have the correct information visible. So now we can make whatever we want as the content of the dialog, and we can easily just switch between the headers and so on and so forth. And if you don't want to use a header here, because sometimes you might need that, so you could just come to this here, and you can say you can add an appearance. I think you should be able to add an appearance. So let's select the header and go to appearance. So let's see if we can add a property. So let's see, add variance property. So this should be a property. So show dialog header. So say true, right? So now on the instance, for some reason maybe you don't want a dialog, you could just go to the top and you say show dialog header, turn it off, and we're gone. You see that? So let's say there's a reason why maybe you don't need two buttons, you just need one. You can come to the dialog actions, and you can turn off one of the buttons here, and that is how you'll be able to access and customize this as however you want. All right, I hope this was insightful, and yeah, catch you on the other side. Bye.